answers in the link.
Yes.
Let's have your answers in the link. What is the policy? We are waiting for answers. We are 17 people now. If you remove,
So I will keep dropping the link for those who are joining now.
well, you can keep the voting time for a little bit longer.
Okay.
One person, a police is government action or inaction. Let's have them come in. Let's have them come in. We are 18 in the chat. A written document or guideline that calls for actions to be taken corresponding public challenges or issues. Good. Let's have them drop in. Let's have them drop in. We only have 2 people out of 18. We are the other 16. It's a response to an instinct. Good. A policy is a course of action proposed by an organization or an individual. Great. Let's have them. Let's have them only 4. We are 19, so we're expecting 15 more. You just go to Menti, there is a link there. You click on it and you're able to give us your response. A plan of action adopted by individual or social group, a special kind of response to a problem or issue. Policy is influencing opinions, create justice. Though we are getting more into advocacy now, but 5 of them, let's have the questions the answers. A course or principle planned by an organization, is a piece of writing documented to cater for marginalized or to act on any CSO or government. Great. And scroll down the screen. Community guidelines purpose to bring about social community transmission. The policy is an actionable idea of an organization intended for implementation, a guiding document for implementation of any activities at 12. I'm waiting for 9 more people. Nine more people, 3 minutes, and we get going because I want us to be out of here by 12:30 midday. So that we're able to prepare for the next cohort. Nine people remaining. We have 3 minutes.
Okay. Here. I did something to my phone. Forward it. So when someone calls me, shows busy.
Not seeing any more people. Okay, Frank, it's fine. Let's save this. Let's save this and get underway. So today for the last session of today, I want us to talk about making the policy argument. And I can let 3 people tell us what a policy argument is. You can unmute, feel free, unmute, no wrong answer. Feel free, unmute, and talk to us. To us, what is a policy argument? Feel free, even the wrong answer is fine. We are here to learn.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think policy argument is the reality of the policy. Earlier, when we were defining a policy as I defined it, I defined it as an idea. For me, I think a policy is an idea. Then the argument is the reality part of it, how it will affect the people, how it's affected by the law, or how it affects the law, how it's perceived within the society. I think that is the argument, the reality. Now, the policy itself is an idea, so we can say that that's the ideal. Now, the reality is the policy argument. That's what I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Winnie was raising you are raising your hand.
Okay, according to me, I think policy argument refers to how an individual defends the particular policy is bringing out through using evidence, things like that, and the way it will affect the society or it will be effective in a society. I think that is a policy argument, like the way of defending that policy, the way of defending your policy, it should be of reality.
Okay, thank you, Winnie. 2 people raising their hands. Sarah, give us your idea.
In my perspective, a policy argument is how a legal rule will have an effect, and then how it will operate in the real world. When you form a policy, how it will operate in the real world, how people will receive it, and yeah, how it will work.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So we have things of the policy proposals. We have the. Why am I bringing? If you go through the trade, we are crafting it in such a way that each entire process. So after we can. So we have talked of policy advocacy. We have talked of the policy process. We have talked of what is public policy. And now we are coming to making the policy argument. Here you are at the engagement stage. You have now stopped the things, how to do it. We are now doing the actual thing. So, introduction is, I'm using a quotation by John, who wrote in 1989 and said, "As politicians know only too well, but social scientists often forget. Public policy is made of language." So scientists, whom Museveni is trying to reduce, I often forget this, but politicians know that public policy is made of language. How you craft your language around the policy proposals you're bringing determines effectiveness, determines if they will be accepted, determines almost everything. So by the end of this session, my expectation is that participants will be able to know what entails a policy argument. They'll be able to understand what should be integrated in a policy proposal, a policy brief or position paper, and they should be able to understand what it takes to engage policymakers and actually even make sense of the policy proposals that are brought forward by different stakeholders. So what is a policy argument? Policy arguments are arguments about the effect of a policy, we put it law, what about the effect a policy, law, budget, or program will have, how it will operate in the real world. So the observations you gave, I mean the definitions you gave are right. Therefore, facts about the real world rather than the legal principle or policy principles are most appropriate to support these arguments. Get me? If you're making a policy argument, it's better use facts about the real world. I'll give you an example. Today, if someone at independence, Uganda had a GDP of $62. Right now, we have a GDP of almost, we are hitting $1,000 GDP per capita. How much each person earns in a year? But does it mean that because we have a higher GDP from $62 to 1,000, Ugandans are better off than they were in 1962? That is one. Also on this one, that's why you find, for instance, after lawyers have made, after MPs have made a law, because the law is full of legalese, you have to come and now put in the actual aspects through ministerial regulations. So real world facts, rather than legal principles, rather than policy principles, rather than economic principles, should make your policy argument. I go on and say, while there are several different types of policy arguments, all policy arguments share a common attribute of advocating that a proposed change will benefit society or advance a particular social goal. That is to say, proposed rule will cause harm and should not be adopted. Can I give an example? I gave it yesterday. One day market, I know Winnie knows it very well. She said it's from Makere. Before one day market was constructed, that thing was an open market. That means that another man who had an umbrella would be able to come and sell her merchandise from there. Using just an umbrella, you get a stool, you put an umbrella to shield you from the sun, and you sell your things. We're now constructing a market. Where are you putting that old woman? Because not all changes are positive. They will benefit some, they will also disempower some. So when you are making a policy argument, you should be advocating that the change you are proposing will benefit society and actually advance a particular social goal. And if it will not be, if it will cause harm, it should not be adopted. Further, because a new rule or a new application of an existing rule will have implications beyond the individual case, the policymaker will be concerned with how the rule will work for future. I put litigants, I was trying to use legal terms, but let's say for future citizens, as well as for society at large. Thus, all policy arguments involve an assessment of how a proposed rule will function in the real world. I think that was given by the definition of Sarah, if I'm not forgotten. Function in the real world. From the idea you are having in your head of what a policy should do, how will it function in the real world? Because implications, for instance, if you are, when they were legislating for, when Parliament was passing the Public Order Management Act, it was passing it to mainly stop message and these walk-to-work things. But now basically is no longer relevant in the political scene. 2016 it was Mbabazi who had chances of contesting for president. He was the one arrested. So the rule you are bringing will not just affect, it will have implications beyond an individual. It will have implications on the entire society. So you must think about it. You must bring an assessment in the proposal you are bringing on how it will function in the real world and how to ensure that society is not affected negatively. So, in constructing a policy argument, the advocate, who's you, who's me, must first convince the policymaker that the particular goal is a desirable one, and also for society at large. The goals of most policy arguments are ideals for which there is general social consensus. Such ideals include fairness, justice, transparency, promotion of public health, creating a welfare state if you're in social policy, creating a market that works for all of us, proper nutrition and everything. Those ideals we create. Like for instance, we are doing a prosperous and middle income country by 2040. That is an ideal. So, and that idea creates social consensus. Everyone buys into it. So you must be able to convince that it is a desirable one for the individual and for society. So there are types of policy arguments you can make, or even anyway, those of you are lawyers, the arguments you make. The first one is a deductive argument. This one is based on a strong premise for the conclusion. It's top down. You reach a conclusion based on the premise that it is assumed to be true. This is what police normally uses. They first arrest you, suspecting you to have committed a crime. They begin building their hypothesis to prove what you are due for. The deductive argument, top down. You're suspecting that man wants to put off internet. You first steal his phone and then investigate and prove that the take off internet. You're suspecting that the elections will create chaos and Facebook or social media platforms will be one of the tools used. You shut down the internet. And then wait to prove that it was actually true. So it is based on a strong premise for a conclusion that the suspicion will actually come true. Inductive arguments. An inductive argument is the opposite of deductive argument. It is bottom-up approach that allows you to arrive at conclusions based on observations. So you begin with a specific to a general. You use data and observations to draw a pattern. So it means that when you are making inductive arguments, you have researched. You're not assuming, because in deductive you are assuming. In inductive, you have actually researched. You have a specific one thing, but as you research, you begin getting more things. For instance, you come up with, your argument is based on educational continuity. That's where you begin from. But now as you go, you're going to double shifting, you're going to accelerated education programs, you go teaching at the right level, so you begin getting into general things, and you give more muscle to the argument you are making. Are we together, friends?
Yes.
Okay. Then there is this one. Also, I write it, but I don't know how to pronounce it. My nursery school was closed. The Torment Argument. So the Torment Argument is a tool for constructing arguments and was created by British philosopher known as Stephen Torment. It involves breaking an argument down into 6 basic parts. You break an argument down into 6 basic parts. The first one is a claim. You make a claim. Then you have grounds. You have a warrant. You have a qualifier. You have a rebuttal. Is the rebuttal, but lawyers normally use it, and I don't know those things. My nursery school was also closed. And then you have backing. But the 3 most important elements of that argument are the claim, which is a statement of opinion, grounds, all the facts, audit, and which you are using to make your claim. So here, if you are making your proposals, what carries the day is the argument that has the strongest evidence base. If you're saying, do we lock down the country, or do we leave the country to remain being on, and then we shall handle COVID as it comes? Or we lock down the country, education schools are closed, the market is not functional, the economy is down, what? So you use now basic, you use logic, and the argument is the strongest evidence will take the day. But for that, the person making the argument has to present the data and facts, show the logic behind the arguments is real and theoretically sound. Because we can make a lot of arguments which are theoretically good but not sound, don't make practical sense out of theory. So from theory to practice, there must be a very good transition stage that allows theory to actually be put into actionable practical points. I can give an example. You want to ban junk food in an office canteen. So your main statement or claim or the ground that junk food is unhealthy for employees and banning it will improve their health. The warrant here is that unhealthy food will lead to health problems and may affect how employees are doing work. So you base on that. You see, you have the warrant, you have the claim, you have the ground. Now, when you begin involving people, of course, some will come with rebuttals. Say, no, junk food is cheaper. Or some will back you up. So where you have the strongest evidence base, you base on it to make a decision. So this one is beyond this. The Torment argument should help you outside just policy and advocacy. It should even help you in your day-to-day life if you're a manager. How do you arrive at decisions? Sindio. The fourth argument is known as the Rogerian Argument. It comes into play when you have to find the best possible solution. That means you have very many solutions. We lock down the country. We let it open. Let us just close airports so that people don't come into the country. Or even use what Cuba did. You know, Cuba, when they were controlling HIV/AIDS, Cuba created what were known as sanitariums. So if they find you with HIV, they take you to sanitarium and isolate you from the people. You are alone, so that you can transmit it to yourself. Or the people are in that sanitarium. So here there are very many solutions you think about. So you will come with the best possible solution. Because someone will come with for instance, when everyone was fearing HIV, someone would have said, you know what? Let us kill them. So that we kill the virus in the process of killing them. You get? Another says, let's put them in special places, government areas, and isolate them from the people. Another says, no, let's just look at bringing medication and keep them and rehabilitate them from within us. Let us now work on killing the stigma, because stigma is worse than the disease. Another says, no, let's have no option. Let's just leave it open. So here you have solutions. So which is the best possible solution? So here, it is a negotiation strategy. You identify a common goal and try to establish common ground. So to use the Rogerian argument, you must be a good negotiator. You must be a good lobbyist. And many of us normally use it in everyday life, but we don't know. So I will give you an example. The team is meeting your manager. It calls at every time before meeting the manager, they make a call. And before starting a new project, the team discusses the best possible solutions to the client's requirements. What kind of software or product or sales would work. So if you're a manager here, you begin now telling them, no, instead of using Zoom for this meeting, let's use Teams. Why Teams? Teams allows for this. It also does automatic transcription of the discussion. The other says, no, let's use Zoom. Why Zoom? Zoom has breakout rooms. It is easier to use for everyone. It has small space if you have to download it. You know, so you make arguments and you take out the best possible solutions. Now, if I am a manager, here again, the two arguments, the Torment and the Rogerian argument, should help us beyond being policy advocates, actually being better managers and better individuals. So you acknowledge the team's standpoints. You say, thank you, Rogers, for saying this. Thank you, Onesmus, for this. Thank you, Susan, for this. Thank you, Wino, for this. Now you make a decision. And here, the decision you make is to be mutually satisfactory. So when you are writing a policy argument, after making all those, for instance, let's say it's a coalition, after making all those standpoints, you now come up with the most satisfactory solution, which everyone will agree to. That when we want to present this argument to a policy maker, everyone here would buy and will have a common ground. So there are broad categories of policy arguments. I was first giving you types, and for this session, I wanted to divide them into 4 subcategories. One, arguments about judicial administration. These ones are for people into law, interpretation of laws. Do you have firm or flexible rule arguments? They are floodgates of litigation. Arguments and slippery slopes arguments. Floodgates arguments. For instance, you know, you can only come to, let's say, so right now we still make laws that call for a death sentence, but at the discretion of the judge to decide. Meaning that if you are sentenced for death, you equally qualify for a life sentence. You go into prison for the whole of your life. So the judges will be very radical. So you are a lawyer, maybe you are trying to twist it. You say, no, but you see, this one may create more floodgates for litigation around it. Just give them a life sentence. It is more acceptable. Let's not be firm, let's be flexible. So now you interpret the law. Interpretation of Public Order Management Act. Interpretation of what constitutes murder, what constitutes rape, on such things. Now, the second one are called normative arguments in the policy. Here you are making moral, social utility, and corrective justice arguments. You are trying to make a case using the merit of the people, bringing in more social utilities. And if it is in criminal justice, you are trying to promote more corrective justice. Let's say have more people go on parole, let's have people go on bail. Instead of people spending many years in prison, they can pay fine, they can do community service, they can do this. Then the third, you're looking at institutional competence arguments. If we merge institutions, transmission authority, this, and bring them under one ministry, we are reducing the size of government. We're having a small number of people who are doing the same work. Instead of having different entities in the same ministry doing duplicated work. So you are making institutional competence arguments. If you are passing the Children's Act, create for them an institutional structure known as the National Children's Authority, so that it can look after issues of children. If you have the National Youth Policy, you have the National Youth Council, so it can be the body mandatory looking after issues of youth. So you begin you're making arguments on institutional competencies, institutional framework. Then economic arguments. If you close schools, we are losing $4 trillion per year. We have lost 1.8 trillion hours globally. We're having more children drop out of school. The economy is affected in such and such a way. So you make econometric arguments to buttress your policy argument and proposal. Are we together, friends? I know this one it's a little bit technical, so I will ask you to bear with me and try to move at a very slow pace. So there are components. If you read, people will give you 20 components of a policy argument, but for now we'll focus on 3. The first one is the problem. Here, in your policy argument, as you talk the problem, you're trying to provide the rationale for action. As I asked yesterday, is the problem? Why is the problem? Will people accept it as a problem? So you are trying to, you first come, any policy you are coming up with, any argument you are making up, any policy proposal you come up with must be based on a problem. And not all problems are bad, some problems are positive. You can say for having too much money, it will create inflation, hyperinflation. Let's now introduce a fiscal policy that is so what money reduces in the economy, and we have a stabilized economy, creating equilibrium. And it can be a sign of an development. If the Gini coefficient is from 0 to 1, if you are below 0.3, the sign that either people are poor or they are really poor. Their purchasing power is low because of them are poor, they don't have the money. So a matchbook is 100 they can afford. So you now come up and begin now rationalizing it. Is having a low Gini coefficient an example of poverty or wealth? So what is the background to the current problem? What is causing the current approach to fail? What we are having? Because there are always things. You are not the first person to come and invent. No, there is always an approach. For instance, we are talking about teenage pregnancy. The laws are there, the penal code, which talk about the environment and everything, but they may not be specific for teenage pregnancy. So what we are coming on is an existing framework that we are basing on to. If you're talking about human sacrifice, we would have laws against murder. Why you are coming up with human sacrifice as a law is because you want to create a specific response. But human sacrifice can equally be categorized as murder. So what is causing the current approach to fail that you need to buttress it up and make it better? That's why you are proposing that policy you are coming up with. In what ways is the current policy failing? If youth are poor, and unemployed? Would they have policies? So why, in what ways are they failing? Maybe people are not being reached, targeted well. We are not budgeting better, like that. So you come up with that. What is the impact of this failure? You have seen us, for instance, if girls continue to be married at a young age, we are losing between 18 and 34 million dollars. That is about what, and you make a case for that. What is the impact? That if you don't do anything about it, if you don't stop traffic jam in Kampala, this money is going to be lost on an annual basis. So what I talked about, those econometric analysis, social impact analysis, environmental impact analysis. Like if you are in urban environment, like my brother Vincent, if we are mining, we want to mine oil, what is the environmental impact of that oil mining? So you with tools, you have tools like cost-benefit analysis, and the rest you're trying to, what is the cost, what is the benefit? Then what is the key evidence to support this? And then interpret the problem. That is the part one of the problem to your policy argument. The second one, you know, the book of Lamentations is very sweet when you are reading it. But sometimes you have to go to the book of Acts, because that's when the Holy Spirit came upon the apostles. Hallelujah. Ahmad, I don't know if you have understood the book of Acts and the like. I am saying the book of Lamentation is very good when you're reading from it. But if you read it, you will have a heart attack. So it's sometimes good that you come to the book of Acts and begin acting. So in the solution part of the policy argument, you are providing a choice of and a justification for a strategic solution. So the question is here, what do I do? What don't I do? What should the government do? What should the government not do? Mahad says is with me, understands the book of Acts very well, because the first read is Christian, eh? And if you, that's the only schools can open. So the question being asked, what you should be providing a solution, you should be looking at what should the government, what should the policy make a solution? So yeah, is it the budget? Do we need more program support? Do we need the law or legislation? Do we need to increase staffing for programs being done? Do we need new models, for instance, partial development model? If other things are not working, do we need the capital for people to access capital, so that you come up with a MYOGA, you come up with youth venture capital fund, you come up with a women empowerment fund, those things. What is the best option to address the current problem? And that option should fit the contextual challenges. Because I gave you an example. If you go right now in Karamoja and you say these people are poor, so we should give them clothes, they will ban them. Because one, if in Karamoja it is very hot. So for you, if you based on that people are not putting on clothes and you want to give them clothes, they will ban them. If you want to construct schools, they will not attend the schools. Why? They are always moving with their cattle. So we may agree that the problem is lack of education, illiteracy, but it's construction of schools is the best option. No, why? Because if you construct schools, it means you're telling them stay here. The child is coming. This is the school they attend. Karamoja Preparatory School. So they won't attend those schools. What do? You create teachers that move with those herdsmen. So that if they move from point A to point B, teachers are moving with them and they are teaching. That's why we have alternative basic education for Karamoja. It's not the common education we at the end of being in school. You wake up and put a uniform and go to school. No. This Karamojong boy wants to graze their cattle. That is the reason for they believe they are on earth. So what you do, you create alternative basic education for Karamoja. The contextual challenge must be put in place. as you providing your solution. And then the question is, why should we choose that option and not the others? Because there are many options coming up, including not acting, including inaction. It's a choice. So why should we choose act? Why do we choose not act? So your solution should provide a comparing base for why they should choose your policy argument. Why they should choose your policy proposal as opposed to others, including not acting. Hallelujah. Hey, all of you are pagans, no one can say amen. But it's fine. Regardless, we move.
Amen.
It has been said by the most unworthy of them. The third component is argument. Said you begin moving, you move on from lamentations. You can even go to Revelation 4 corners of the earth. You are providing a plan to implement the chosen strategy. What you are suggesting? What should be done to implement the do we need a new ministry? Do we need new MPs for the elderly? Do we need to have MPs in parliament for UPDF? Do we need new districts? Oh, do we need more government programs coming up to address the issue of poverty? Or do we need more public-private partnerships so that someone can go to a big bank and get a loan on behalf of government and be able to invest? Who should do it? If the problem is in education, someone may suggest that it should be done by Ministry of Gender. Is the right person, is it the right institution to do it? So who should do it? Identify the person to do it, to implement your policy proposal. And when should it be done? Those are the questions to put in as you are writing the implementation part of your policy proposal, policy brief, position paper, and the like. Actually, I had intended to keep it here. But then, as I was
Prosper your internet. Someone is calling you, maybe. You're breaking now.
This man,
Prosper, okay, yeah. Odysseus, support our brother with the audio.
Yeah, so Prosper is getting back to the meeting. So let's give him about 10 seconds.
Okay.
The car washer was calling me as an ED, so I didn't want to make my phone busy, and then I asked for a favor from him, so I let it go through. I will first give you a classic example of a policy argument. Now, yesterday Nick Powell died. Nick Powell was the Secretary of State for the US during the George Walker Bush, and he went to the United Nations Security Council, making a Iraq that won terror by George, dethroned and then even hanged. But I'm not going to use the words of Nick Powell that he made before the Security Council of the United Nations. I'm going to use the words of George Walker Bush. Can someone read for us?
Okay. It is clear that we need to change our strategy in Iraq. So my national security team, military commanders and diplomats conducted a comprehensive review. We consulted members of Congress from both parties, allies abroad, and distinguished outside experts. We benefited from the thoughtful recommendations of they haven't shared.
I think again someone has called him.
No, he's returning and he's going to share the screen again.
Okay. Oh,
So as we
sorry
wait
about
for
this.
Prosper to return to the meeting, so you was talking about policy argument, or what would want to compare as argumentation and policy analysis. So most of the times we'll find argumentation or practical, systematic, practical argumentation is of course valuable and important for every subject, be it economics, be it medicine, be it law. So it is also very important for policy-oriented work, because most of the things we do, they always involve policy if we get the chance to be on those decision-making tables. Or if we are not, we are doing actions relating to the policies already in place. So sometimes you find public policy discourses are very complex, and of course has important distinct features, which include the need to incorporate value inputs, consideration of legitimacy, and sometimes also assessments of the constraints on public action. So because of that, it is proposed that all of us in our different disciplines should not only stress any distinctive components and structures, but should also emphasize some themes that reflect the field's complexity. And these themes could include the identification of problems and criteria and the resulting importance of activities of problem formulation and closure. And of course, in doing all this, there is always a temptation in discourse analysis to go deeper into things like philosophy, linguistic, and literary theory. Of course, this policy work does not overemphasize the elegance of an abstracted case. But when we do a policy analysis or a policy argumentation, we create the ability to provide new insights in particular instances, and also to develop or convey to others some means by which we can generate, or they can generate insights themselves. Yeah, so Prosper is on the door. So Frank, let him in. Let me admit him. Okay. So that is what basically I can talk about argumentation and policy analysis. So policy argumentation. But at the end of the day, I know some of us have a background of debate in this meeting, and you are familiar with policy debate or value debate. So this is where actually now you are out out of the debate room and are going into practice. What do we mean when we talk about policy argumentation? What do we mean when we want to combine argumentation and policy analysis? So I think Prosper is back. You can share your screen and then, okay, you cannot share because I also don't see him in the meeting. Okay, he's back and I think now you can share. Okay. So I was still reading this classic example of a policy argument. Let me start again on it. So it is clear that we need to change our strategy in Iraq. So my national security team, military commanders and diplomats conducted a comprehensive review. We consulted members of Congress from both parties, allies abroad, and distinguished outside experts. We benefited from the thoughtful recommendations of the Iraqi study group, a bipartisan panel led by the former Secretary of State James Baker and former Congressman Lee Hamilton. In our discussions, we all agreed that there is no magic formula to success in Iraq. And one message came through loud and clear. Failure in Iraq would be a disaster for the United States. The consequences of failure are clear. Radical Islamic extremists would grow in strength and gain new recruits. They would be in a better position to topple moderate governments, create chaos in the region, and use oil revenues to fund their ambitions. Iraq would be emboldened in its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Our enemies would have a safe haven from which to plan and launch attacks on the American people. On September the 11th, 2001, we saw what a refuge of extremists on the other side of the world would bring to the streets of our own cities. For the safety of our people, America must succeed in Iraq. Go to the other slide. No, you are not. That side. So, okay, let's proceed. So slide 13 of the same argument. Many are concerned that the Iraqis are becoming too dependent on the United States, and therefore our policy should focus on protecting Iraq's borders and hunting down Al-Qaeda. Their solution is to scale back America's efforts in Baghdad or announce the phased withdrawal of our combat forces. We carefully considered these proposals and we concluded that to step back now would force a collapse. Wait. You drop it down. Okay, we are back. If I read from here.
Okay, let me finish it up. We carefully considered these proposals. You will forgive me a minute. So we carefully considered these proposals and
I think maybe Prosper, you can share the presentation with
Manini.
Onesimus since he has a stable internet. Okay.
is even more lethal. You heard that?
No. Well, I didn't. For me, I didn't, and I'm
Okay.
sure.
We carefully, you can listen. Frank.
Yes. Now it's fine.
Okay, we carefully considered these proposals and we concluded that steps tear that country apart and result in mass killings on an unimaginable scale. Such a scenario would result in our troops being forced to stay longer in Iraq and confront an enemy that is even more lethal. Why I have read for you this classic policy argument by George Walker Bush when he was trying to defend why the US state, that was his foreign policy on Iraq, why they should attack Iraq at that time and declare their own terror. You can see it's full of, he puts in consequences, he gives the reason why, if they don't act, what will happen, if they act, what will happen. I don't know if and he also gives the different options which were brought on table. Different options brought on table, such as the consequences of what among many the solution scale back or announce faced with
Onesimus.
Yes, please. So as Prosper was saying, sorry, his network is very unstable. So actually we had come to the end of the presentation. Though he has something more to tell us, but on policy argument, we were almost getting done. But like he was saying, of course, policy arguments are like any other arguments, but of course, they remove that abstract case in the arguments that we make. So they are systematic to the extent that they are not very generic. So it limits the value of any generic format for analyzing all arguments or even all policy arguments. So a policy argument could be an argument about the effect of a logo rule, or what the effect the logo rule will have, how it will operate in the real world as well. So therefore, a policy argument involves facts about the real world rather than only about the legal principle, and are most appropriate to support these arguments. So there are always ways to structure policy arguments. And of course, policy arguments could contain elements like information, there is claim, there is warrant, there is backing, there is rebuttal, there is also qualifier. So how do you create such kind of an argument? Because beyond knowing what this argument means, you must also know how to create it. And Prosper already gave us a speech or that shows what a legal argument looks like. But of course, you need to identify relevant policy issues if you are going to make a policy argument, and then apply the policy to the facts or apply the facts to the policy. Then, of course, you have to structure your answer clearly and logically. So here, this is where you use the model plan, and then you come up with a clear and logical answer. Then at the end of the day, to convey your message and communicate, you need to use appropriate language for a policy argument. So I don't know if Prosper is back. Okay, I see it's back in the meeting.
I'm back. I'm back. I wanted to take you, thank you, Onesmus, for coming through. I wanted just to take, some policy arguments are false. And I wanted to take you through something you can, a little guideline on how you can identify false policy arguments. A few minutes. Yes. One, interpretation. Let me first take you through one on interpretation. The classic. One, policy arguments have three major functions. The first one is to generate a debate, which improves the validity, soundness, and efficacy of policies. That is known as the dialectical function. The second one is the logical empirical function, and that is to present optimally valid and empirically sound conclusions. If you follow the three lines we took you through. The third is the theoretical function, and that is to persuade others to accept your policy. So you can look for concealed meanings in words, sentences, and even entire arguments. A word in a policy may not mean what it says on the surface. If you heard what Onesimus was saying, actually what the president was saying was allow us to go and attack and wage war. But there is no word like war in that classic policy argument of George Bush, which we read for you. So look for considered meanings. If you're a policy maker, you're an MP and the president is making an argument for you to accept that policy proposal, look for those considered meanings. Distinguish between the surface meaning of a word, sentence, or argument and its meaning in the context of the argument. For instance, what is the president looking at by saying, let us remove bail? What is the body language saying? Is it positive? Is it in the spirit of the law? Fourth, observe the principle of harmonic charity. And this requires that discrepancies in meaning are resolved by accepting or trying to understand what the person making the policy argument. So try to understand, don't just accept, try and understand. What is the actual, what do you think is the misinterpretation when it comes to bail and acquiring bail? Then look for terms that are used pejoratively to discredit a person or a policy. On the surface, these terms can be neutral. Then you look at, I can give you an example. This is an example of a new bureaucracy. These are arguments of typical tree huggers. These are mercenaries of foreign interests when I'm talking about rules to curtail civil society function. So you as a policy, if you're a policy maker, you are trying to contest, you're an MP, and such arguments are coming before you on the floor of parliament, or even civil society is bringing together policy proposals, you should be able to analyze and get context out of them. If you are a civil society person, make sure that your policy argument takes few of those words, because experts are there. They will begin drawing between the lines and no, this person is taking us into hell. Then there are invalid policy arguments and fallacies. How would you know them? The first one is affirming the consequent, a matter of formal or propositional logic. So an invalid automatic argument is logically invalid. You will see someone saying, for instance, saying that because Uganda, I give you an example, in 1962 had a GDP per capita of $62. Now it has grown to $1,000. Uganda has developed at a massive scale. That cause-effect relationship should be put into context. What was the inflation rate at that time? What was the exchange rate at that time? How many people did we have? What levels of education did we have? What was the state, the political superstructure, the body politic of the day? So you should be affirming those statements the way they come. Okay, if you put more money what time I'm making an argument against classified expenditure, and then the response from the Ministry of Defense was that Uganda has a lot of problems, security problems, and most of them are historical. So you must be able to get those consequences in the policy proposal that are brought to know that this proposal is logically invalid. The second, most invalid policy arguments tend to deny the antecedent. Formal logic validity. Here you are looking at, because market economics are market economies are democracies, and then this country, China, is not a market democracy, is not a market economy, it is still communist. You say it is not a democracy. Who told you? Is Uganda, which is a capitalistic economy, a democracy? Cause-effect relationship. Is Germany, which is a socialist democracy, fully capitalistic? No. Does the US have aspects of socialism within them? Yes. We know, for instance, the senator for Vermont, Bernie Sanders, is a socialist democrat. So these are wrong examples of saying, people saying that for you to be a democrat, you must accept capitalism. So if you're not a capitalist, you're not a democrat, are wrong. And you should be identifying them in the policy proposals that come similar, like for instance saying, because Uganda has political parties and goes for elections, it is a democracy. You should put a line between them. The third way of identifying an invalid argument and a policy fallacy is there is a false analogy. They put, it normally has comparisons of two relationships which are similar to be dissimilar, to be similar, which are assumed to be similar, and important differences to make the comparison kind of familiar. One is this, that because drug addiction is like an infectious disease, putting addicts in quarantine is the only policy that will work. I give you an example of Cuba. Because you want to contain the spread of HIV, you create sanitariums and take people who are tested positive, you put them in their own area to live there. You're using false analogies, and you will find them very much in this, because someone is expected to have killed another. If you put them, if you give them bail, you are provoking the community. Are you seeing how the first narrative begins coming in the policy proposals that are normally brought before us? The fourth is most invalid policy arguments have a first parallel. Here, you compare two cases which are believed to be similar again. And you try to bring something together. For instance, that's what the Hitler based on to kill the Jews. That because they killed Jesus, they didn't accept him, they are not worthy of living. You come and assume that because but Kampala is full of non-Baganda, denying antecedents and affirming consequence is an example of and then of course there's always generalization. People generalize. For instance, that if everyone has dreads, they are gangsters, they are bad men. You are generalizing. So what do you come up with? You say Kambocha now. Kambocha is a bad area. You don't want to be in Kambocha because they are people with dreads. That is wrong. Then another thing is they always have a force cause, and I will remain on the bail issue. The cause is always force. So that means in problem identification, you didn't even make a right problem identification. So you can use these parameters, 6 of them, to identify that this policy proposal, this policy argument is illogically invalid. And I'm sure the good thing is most of you are still students, so you can get them to read about them and understand well, I think 1 week is not enough for us to fully comprehend and understand all these things, but it takes practice. I'm just beginning to do my master's in public policy. I didn't study it before, but I've been doing policy for the last 3 years also. So for me, it's about practice. Take interest in it, read about them, and you'll begin analyzing them, and you will be experts at that field. So why today we brought in making a policy argument is because we believe we are having the next generation of policy makers, and then advocates. So the policy argument tackles you in those areas. You are analyzing a policy, you are advocating for a policy, or you are the person making the policy. You must know which policy argument are you proposing. Are you passing, you as a policy maker? Which law are you passing? What is the spirit behind it before you pass it? If you are advocating for it, what are you advocating for really? Because most times we just jump on things. And by the time we discover, now I was reading a story, no, it was just a documentary on CNN some time back about family planning in India. The first narrative was that population increase is negative for economic growth. Or you can even look at China, it is regulating right now. That's why I say the people can produce more than 1 kid. Because they are now having a population pyramid that is skewed. Few children, few youth, more older people. You could even have seen it with COVID. Italy, the death rate in Italy was about 76.9 years. Because why? They are having a skewed population pyramid. They took wrong narratives that for you to grow and develop, you must have small populations, you stop birth rates. But the problem is not that, the problem is the market. We produce more food. The world does not produce less food for its population. We produce more food. But if you're having a fridge and the fruits are rotting in the fridge. Why? Because he can afford to buy the fruits and stock them in his fridge. So by the time fruits rot in the fridge, you find bread having 30 shoes. So if someone goes without having shoes, not because the shoes are few, no, it's because someone is having more than they need. So you begin looking at the distribution of resources, not saying you control population growth. Because those who have done it are right now regulating. They are having very old people and very few young people. So finding a right cause, finding the right cause and understanding it should be integral in the policy arguments you make. Can I thank you for listening to me?